The broom dragged across the porch boards, pulling up dust that clung to the widow's shoes. She moved slowly, steady, sweeping because silence felt heavier if she stood still. Her belly, round with a child, pressed against the wood handle when she leaned forward. Each scrape carried her through another hour of a day with no name. A voice cut through. "Mama!" She stopped mid-stroke. The broom froze in her hands. Her breath caught sharp, as if a ghost had said it. She turned. A cowboy stood at the gate, hat low, shoulders squared. Young, too young to carry that kind of stillness in his eyes. Her voice cracked. "What did you just call me?" "Mama," he said again, flat, like it belonged to her. She gripped the broom tighter. "You don't know me." He stepped onto the dirt path, boots sinking into the dust. "I know enough." Her eyes narrowed. "Leave." "I came a long way," he answered, steady as stone. "For what?" "To keep you standing." Her laugh was bitter, short. "Don't talk like you know me." "You don't." He tilted his head, studied her belly. "Man leaves a woman heavy with child. She's already got one foot in the grave. The sheriff knows it. Men in town know it. They'll strip you down piece by piece. I won't let them." The broom slid from her grip, clattered against the porch rail. She stepped back, hand braced against her stomach. "How do you know what I'm carrying?" His answer was blunt. "Because I knew him." Her throat closed. "Who?" "Your husband." The widow's face hardened. "That's a lie." He leaned closer, voice low. "He used to ride with men he shouldn't have, told them stories he shouldn't have told. I heard his name whispered long before I knew his face." Her fingers curled against the wood of the porch. "Get off my land." "Not yet. You have no right." "I've got more right than you'd like." Her jaw trembled, though her eyes held steady. "Say it plain." He nodded once, as if daring her. "He owed debts. They'll come to collect. You'll need someone to stand in front of the door." Her hands shook as she lifted the broom again, using it as a barrier. "I don't need your pity." "This ain't pity." "Then what is it?" "It's blood." Her breath faltered. The broom handle pressed harder into her palm. "What are you to him?" His lips barely moved. "Kin." She felt her chest tighten. The porch seemed smaller, the air heavier. "You're lying." "No," he said. "I'm telling you the truth. He never did." Her silence stretched, broken only by the wind pushing dust across the yard. Finally, she whispered, "Why call me Mama?" "Because he never gave me one." Her throat burned. "That's not my sin." "Maybe not," he said. "But you carry his name. You carry his child. That makes you the last thing I've got left to hold on to." Her eyes flashed with anger. "You can't just walk in here and claim me." "I ain't claiming you. I'm protecting you." "I don't want it." He looked at her steadily. "You'll want it when the sheriff rides up that road." Her heart slammed against her ribs. She remembered the sheriff's smirk at her husband's funeral, the way men spoke softer when his name hung in the room. She remembered doors closing on her when she begged for work. "You think you can stand against him?" she asked. "I already have," the cowboy said. "And lived?" "Barely." Her eyes dropped to his hands. Scar tissue cut across his knuckles, deep and uneven. She whispered, "What did he do to you?" "What he'll do to you if you're alone." She swallowed hard, shaking her head. "I don't trust you." "Then trust the way they look at you," he said. "Hungry. Waiting." Her grip loosened on the broom. The boards beneath her feet felt brittle, as though they might splinter under the weight of her child, her grief. And now this stranger who spoke like blood, but stood like stone. "You should go," she muttered, voice raw. He leaned against the porch rail, ignoring her command. "You sweep like you're chasing ghosts." Her gaze snapped to him. "You don't know what haunts this house." He stared back. "I know enough. A woman alone with nothing but a broom and a grave out back doesn't scare easily. But I do know this. When men come to take what's yours, words won't hold them." Her chest rose and fell fast. She wanted to scream at him, to strike him, to demand answers he wouldn't give. Instead, she sank into the porch chair and pressed her palms to her belly. He stepped closer, softening his voice. "I ain't here to break you. I'm here to keep you standing. That's all." She looked at him, eyes rimmed red. "If you know so much, then tell me what I don't. Tell me why he never came back that night." The cowboy lowered his head. For the first time, silence cracked his stone face. "Because," he said slowly, "he already knew he wouldn't. Her breath left her in a sharp sound, half sob, half gasp. She turned her face away, gripping the chair arms until her knuckles whitened. The cowboy let the silence settle, then straightened. "Mama or not, I'll stand by this house. You'll see." Her voice was broken glass. "Don't call me that again." He nodded once. "Then what should I call you?" Her lips trembled before she forced out the word. "Widow." He studied her, then tipped his hat. "Widow it is." The wind swept across the yard again, scattering dust through the air. She watched him lean back against the rail, his boots planted like he meant to stay. The broom lay on the boards between them, still as the grave she wished she could forget. Her grief had been hers alone, sealed and buried. But now, with one word, one stranger, the wound had opened, and the porch that had once been quiet was no longer her own. The broom still lay where she had dropped it, a crooked shadow against the porch boards. The cowboy hadn't moved from the rail. He looked too settled, as if the place already belonged to him. She stayed in the chair, one hand braced over her belly, her eyes sharp on him. "Why are you still here?" she asked. "Because you need me here." Her jaw tightened. "I told you I don't." "You don't get to choose that anymore." Her breath hitched. "You're no lawman." "Never claimed to be." "Then why act like you hold authority?" "Because the man who does is circling this ranch like a buzzard." Her face stiffened. "Sheriff." He nodded. "He'll ride up when he thinks you're soft enough to bend. I've seen the way he waits on people. He waits until they break, then he takes what he wants." Her voice sharpened. "You talk like you know him." "I do." "You talk like you know my husband." "I did." Her hand gripped the chair arm. "Stop speaking in riddles." He leaned in, elbows on his knees. "I'm saying the sheriff's already decided your land ain't yours. He's just dressing up as the reason. Could be debts, could be taxes, could be some deal your husband made and never finished. Doesn't matter. When he comes, he'll say you owe him, and the town will nod along." Her voice shook, though she forced it steady. "And you're the one who saves me?" "If you let me." She stared hard at him. "Why would you bother?" "Because I knew him," he said again. Her throat ached at the sound. "You keep saying that." "Because it matters." "You didn't bury him. I did. You didn't lay him in the dirt with your own hands." "I didn't need to," he said softly. "I buried him long before you did." She froze. "What does that mean?" He looked away, out toward the yard. "It means he was gone from me years ago. The sheriff saw to that. But he didn't forget me. And I didn't forget him." Her chest rose fast, breaths shallow. "You're lying." "No," he said. "I'm warning you. The sheriff took it from him. He'll take from you." Her voice cracked under anger. "Then why didn't you stop it before?" "I was young," he said. "Didn't know what weight to carry. Now I do." Her hand trembled against the porch chair. "So you ride up to my gate, call me Mama, and claim the right to guard me." "That's about the size of it." Her laugh was sharp, hollow. "You're either mad or cruel. Or maybe I know the game better than you think." She shook her head. "I don't want a stranger in my house." "You want the sheriff in it instead?" Her lips parted, but no words came. He leaned closer. Voice harder now. "He's already walking through these rooms in his mind. He's picturing himself at your table, putting his boots where your husband once sat. He's picturing your child carrying his name, not the one you buried. That's the kind of man he is." She recoiled, eyes burning. "Don't you dare put those words in my head. They're already there," he said. "I just gave them a voice." She pressed both hands against her stomach, as if to shield the child inside. "You think I'm weak," she whispered. "I think you're alone. And you're the cure." "I'm the wall," he said flatly. "Sheriff can't walk through me as easily as he can through you." Her anger rose again. "And what do you want in return? You think I'll pay you in coins I don't have? In food I can't spare?" "I want nothing," he said. "No man wants nothing." "I do." "You want something," she snapped. "Say it plain." He looked her square in the eye. "I want you to let me call you Mama." The word struck her like a stone. She turned away, voice breaking. "That's not yours to take." "Maybe not," he said, "but it's mine to give." Her hands gripped the chair until the wood creaked. "You sound like a ghost talking through another man's mouth." "Maybe I am." She stared at him, chest tight, vision blurred. The porch boards groaned under her shifting weight. "You're not welcome here." "I'm not leaving," he answered. "You'll regret it." "No," he said quietly. "You will, if you send me off." Silence stretched. The yard lay still, the only sound the rustle of dry grass. She wanted to push him out, to slam the door, but the picture of the sheriff stepping over her threshold kept rising in her mind. She whispered, almost to herself, "I don't need saving." He leaned back, his tone softer than before. "Maybe not. But the child will." Her throat closed, heat rising in her face. "Don't you dare speak of him." "I will," he said, "because that's what they'll come for when they can't have you." Her eyes snapped back to him. "What do you mean?" "The sheriff doesn't care about crops or barns. He cares about legacy. Yours. Hi, he'll twist your child into proof the land belongs to him. You'll watch it happen slow, and you'll die long before the ground covers you." Her body trembled. "You paint pictures like the devil." "I've seen his brush," he said. The air thickened between them. She couldn't look at him, couldn't look away either. Finally, she whispered, "Why me?" "Because he marked you," the cowboy said, "and because I can't stand to watch another grave fill without trying." Her voice cracked low. "You talk like you knew his grave before I dug it." "I did," he said. "Every mile I rode carried me toward it." She pressed her palm to her face, breath shuddering. "You're poison." "Or medicine," he said. "Depends how you take me." Her hand dropped, eyes blazing. "You're not my son." "No," he said, "but I'll call you Mama anyway." She rose from the chair, standing over him, though her legs trembled. "If you stay outside. You don't cross this door." He met her eyes, unflinching. "Outside's enough." She held her ground, breath heavy, heart breaking under weight she couldn't name. "Fine," she whispered. He nodded once, then leaned back against the rail like he'd been born there. She lowered herself into the chair again, trembling. The porch seemed smaller, shadows pressing closer. She wasn't sure who she feared more, the sheriff waiting in the dark or the cowboy already under her roofline. The air was still when the sound of hooves reached the porch. The widow lifted her head from the chair, her hand still on her belly. The cowboy stayed leaning against the rail, calm but too steady, like he had been waiting. The sheriff's horse slowed in the yard, dust rising around its legs. The sheriff sat tall in the saddle, hat tilted, smile faint and sharp. His eyes swept across the porch before resting on the widow. "Well now," he said, voice easy. "Didn't expect to see you keeping company." She shifted in her chair. "I wasn't." The sheriff chuckled. "Looks like you are." The cowboy answered flatly, "I'm family." The sheriff raised an eyebrow. "That right?" The widow's breath caught. The cowboy didn't blink. "She's my mama," he said. The sheriff studied him for a long time, then looked at her. "Strange, I never heard of you." The cowboy shrugged. "Strange how much a man can keep to himself." The sheriff smiled wider. "Your husband never spoke of a son." "Not to you," the cowboy said. Silence hung for a beat. The sheriff's horse pawed the dirt. The widow forced her voice steady. "What do you want, Sheriff?" He leaned forward in the saddle. "Came to check on you. Hard times for a woman alone. Harder still with children. Folks worry." "Which folks?" she asked. "Ones owed what your husband left behind." Her hands gripped the chair arms. "He left nothing." The sheriff's grin thinned. "That's not what I hear." The cowboy cut in, voice hard. "He left family. That's all that matters." The sheriff's gaze shifted back. "And you'd be who again?" "I already said," the cowboy answered. The sheriff tilted his head. "You got proof." The cowboy's jaw clenched. "I don't need it." The widow's pulse raced. The sheriff's eyes slid to her belly, then back to her face. "You believe him?" he asked. Her throat burned. She wanted to deny it, to send the cowboy off her porch and away from her grief. But the sheriff's stare pinned her. "Yes," she said softly. The sheriff let out a low whistle. "Well, ain't that something?" The cowboy straightened. "It's enough. You've had your look. Now ride on." The sheriff laughed, slow and mean. "Got a sharp tongue for a son no one's heard of. Careful with that." The cowboy stepped off the porch rail, boots firm on the boards. Careful works both ways. The sheriff's smile lingered, but his eyes hardened. "I've been patient with this land, with the debts hanging on it, with the silence of a widow. Don't mistake patience for weakness." The widow forced words out. "There are no debts." "Your husband thought differently," the sheriff said. "He's gone," she answered. "Dead men still owe," the sheriff said calmly, "and living widows pay." The cowboy's voice cut in sharp. "Not this one." The sheriff leaned back in the saddle, studying him. "Bold. You got his look about you. Maybe you are blood, maybe not. Either way, you talk too much." "Then hear this," the cowboy said. "She's not alone. Not now." The widow's chest tightened. The lie was hers now, too. The sheriff tipped his hat. "We'll see how long you can keep that story alive." Her voice shook. "You're not welcome here." He smiled, slow and cruel. "I never needed a welcome." The cowboy stepped closer to the edge of the porch. "Then you better ride before you're pushed." The sheriff's hand brushed the grip of his pistol, casual. A warning more than a promise. He let the silence stretch. Finally, he pulled the reins. The horse turned slow, hooves dragging through the dust. He called back over his shoulder. "Debts don't vanish, widow. They just wait. Sooner or later, I'll be back to collect." The widow's breath shook as the sheriff rode off down the road, the sound of hooves fading. Dust lingered long after he was gone. She sat frozen in the chair, staring at the yard. The cowboy stood still, jaw tight, eyes fixed where the horse had disappeared. Finally, she whispered, "You shouldn't have said that." "Said what?" "That I was your mama." His eyes flicked to her. "It kept him off you." "It chained me to you," she said. He didn't flinch. "Then wear the chain. It's better than the noose he had waiting." Her voice broke sharp. "You don't know what weight you just put on me." He stepped closer, his voice steady. "I do. That's why I put it there." She turned on him, anger trembling through her. "You think calling me that makes me yours? You think lying for me gives you a place here?" "I think it keeps him from taking what's left of you," he said. Her eyes burned. "And what if I don't want your protection? You'll take it anyway." "I won't." "You already did," he said flatly. "The moment you spoke, yes." She pressed her palms against her face, trying to block the truth of it. She had said yes. She had claimed the lie. Her voice came muffled through her hands. "I hate you for it." "Then hate me," he answered, "as long as you're still breathing." Her hands fell away, her eyes wet. "You sound like him." "I'm not him." "You sound like him," she repeated. The cowboy's jaw tightened. "Then maybe that's what you need to hear." She rose from the chair, her body shaking under the weight of grief and fury. She pointed toward the yard. "If you mean to stay, you sleep in the barn, not in this house." He nodded once. "Barn's fine." "And you don't call me Mama again," she said. His eyes held hers. "I will when he's near." Her chest ached. She turned away, pressing a hand to her stomach as though shielding the child from all of it. Behind her, the cowboy moved off the porch, boots striking hard against the boards. He walked into the yard without another word. She sank back into the chair, eyes fixed on the broom still lying where she had dropped it. The lie he had spoken now hung heavier than the dust. It was her shield, yes, but it was also the chain binding her to a stranger who refused to leave. The house smelled of onions and broth. The widow moved slow in the kitchen, ladle dipping into the pot, hand steady despite the tremor in her chest. She hadn't planned to cook. She hadn't planned to share anything, but her hands worked out of habit, the same way they had when her husband came in from the fields. The cowboy sat at the table, hat set aside, elbows on the wood. He looked too at home, too certain he belonged. His eyes followed her as she poured stew into 2 chipped bowls. "You always feed strangers?" he asked. She set a bowl in front of him. "No." "Then why me?" "Because you won't leave." He grinned faintly. "That's reason enough." She lowered herself into the chair opposite, spoon in hand. He dug in quickly, eating like he hadn't seen food in days. "You eat like you belong here," she said. "Maybe I do." Her jaw tightened. "Don't push me." He chewed slow, swallowed. "You think I'm pushing. I'm just telling the truth." "You don't know the truth." "I knew your husband," he said. The spoon clattered from her hand against the bowl. "Stop." "I rode with him once," he went on. "Not for long. Long enough." Her eyes burned. "You lie." "I don't." "You think speaking his name gives you power?" "It gives me memories." Her voice snapped sharp. "You don't get to claim memory. That's mine." His eyes darkened. Then tell me what you remember of his last ride. Her breath froze. He leaned forward, spoon pausing midair. Did he say where he was headed? Did he tell you who he met? Or did he just ride off and leave silence behind? Her voice cracked. He said he'd be back by sundown. Was he? She glared at him, words shaking. You know he wasn't. The cowboy set his spoon down, fingers tapping the table. Then you know more than you want to admit. She gripped the edge of the table. Don't speak like that in my house. He smiled faintly, bitterly. This house ain't yours anymore. The sheriff already thinks it's his. Her hand slammed flat against the wood. Don't bring him in here. He's already here, the cowboy said. Every chair, every wall, every shadow in this place knows it. Her patience snapped. Why won't you leave me be? Because you're not safe alone. Her eyes narrowed. Or because you want what's mine. He laughed low. What's yours? My table, my home, my name. I don't want your name, he said. I've already got his. Her voice fell to a whisper. Who are you? His eyes softened, almost kind. Just the son of a man who left pieces of himself everywhere. She shook her head hard. No, you're not. Then why does it scare you so much? Silence hung between them, heavy as stone. The stew cooled in their bowls. Finally she whispered, because you talk like him. He leaned back in the chair. Maybe that's why I'm here, to finish what he left behind. Her lips trembled. He left me nothing. Not true, he said. He left you a child. She pressed a hand over her belly, eyes wet. That's all I have left of him. The cowboy's voice was low. Then it's more than I ever had. Her chest tightened. She wanted to hate him. She wanted to drive him out, but the words lodged in her throat. He lifted the spoon again, ate slowly now, and measured. She watched him, the way his shoulders filled the space across from her, the way silence seemed less sharp with another presence at the table. Why do you speak in riddles? She asked at last. Because plain words don't hold the weight, he said. Plain words are all I need. No, he said softly. You need more than that. Her hands shook against the bowl. I need peace. You won't get it, he answered. Not from me, not from him, not from the sheriff, not from anyone. Her eyes searched his face. Then why sit here? Because it's the only place I've got left to sit. Her anger faded into something else. Something closer to ache. They ate in silence, spoons scraping against the bowls. The sound filled the room like a rhythm, steady, almost comforting. When her bowl was empty, she set it aside. Her voice was quieter now. You're not my son. He nodded. I know. But you call me Mama, because it keeps us both standing. She looked down at her hands, then back at him. And when the sheriff comes again, I'll call it louder. Her lips parted, but no words came. She felt the truth of it. The lie was now her armor. The cowboy leaned back, chair creaking. See? Not so bad sharing a table. Her eyes lingered on him. The night outside pressed close against the windows, but inside the silence wasn't as heavy. She whispered, almost to herself, I don't want you here. He smiled faintly, tired. You want me enough. Her chest rose with a sharp breath. She turned her face away, unwilling to admit it. The table between them carried both their bowls, the scent of stew fading into the walls of the house. For the first time since her husband's last ride, the widow was not alone at supper, and though she hated the weight of his words, the air felt less empty than the nights she had spent waiting for footsteps that never returned. The morning came gray and cold. The widow moved through the yard with her shawl pulled tight, her breath short against the chill. The cowboy trailed a few steps behind, hat low, hands in his pockets like a man following a trail he already knew. The graves waited behind the house, marked by crooked stones and worn wood. The earth there looked older than the house itself. She stopped at the fence line, one hand resting on the gate. You don't need to come, she said. I already did, he answered. She pushed the gate open, the hinges groaning. The ground crunched beneath her steps as she led him among the stones. The air felt heavier here, silence pressing closer. She paused at the first marker. My husband's people. I have worked on this site since before I was born. The cowboy's eyes moved over the names carved shallow in stone, and buried in it, too. Her jaw tightened. Every one of them was put in the dirt by someone who loved them. That's how it should be. He crouched near a marker, brushing dust off the carved letters. That's not always how it is. Her voice sharpened. Don't start. He looked up at her. You're afraid I'll speak what you already think. Her chest rose hard. I'm afraid of losing this ranch. Afraid of watching strangers dig up what belongs to my child before he can even walk. The cowboy stood slow, eyes steady. Sheriff won't dig for money. She frowned. Then what? Something else, he said. Speak plain. He's not after your barn, not after your fields. He's after what's buried here. Her breath hitched. Here? He nodded toward the graves. Somewhere in this ground. Her voice cracked. You're lying. No, he said softly. I wish I was. Her hands gripped her shawl tight. You talk like you know secrets that were never yours. I know because I listened. I heard the men he rode with. They spoke of debt, yes, but not in coin. Something he carried, something he hid. Her throat burned. What did he hide? That's the thing, he said. I don't know. But the sheriff does, or at least he thinks he does. Her eyes fell to the dirt at her feet. The graves seemed to lean closer, their silence louder than words. You're telling me my husband brought ruin here, she whispered. The cowboy's jaw tightened. I'm telling you he left more behind than just a widow and a child. She stepped closer to one of the stones, fingers brushing across the name cut into it. The letters blurred under her trembling touch. The cowboy's voice dropped low. Whose grave is that? She looked at him, eyes shining. My brother's. He stiffened. Brother? He worked the ranch with us. The sheriff never cared much for him, called him a fool. The cowboy's gaze locked on the name. His body went still, shoulders stiff. She caught it. You know it, don't you? His voice came rough. I heard it once, spoken in anger. A name tied to a job gone wrong. Her heart pounded. What job? He shook his head. I don't know the full extent of it, but I know your brother's death wasn't clean. The sheriff's men spoke of it like a warning, said debts don't die when a body does. Her knees weakened. She gripped the stone to steady herself. You mean to tell me my husband, my brother? They were tangled in the same rope, he said. Her voice rose sharp. And you expect me to carry that rope now? I expect you already are. Tears threatened her eyes, but she fought them down. Why didn't he tell me? Why did he leave me blind? The cowboy stepped closer, his voice steady. Because a man carries shame differently than a woman. He thought burying it in the ground would keep it from you. Her voice broke. And instead it falls on me. He nodded once. And the child. She pressed her palm against her belly, trembling. No, I won't let it touch him. That's what the sheriff wants, he said. A legacy he can twist. A debt he can claim through blood. Her anger flared. Then why tell me this? Why not leave me ignorant if it's such a curse? Because ignorance doesn't stop bullets, he said. You needed to hear it. Her chest heaved. She stared at the cowboy, hating him for his words, and fearing them all the same. You speak like a prophet, she said. No, he answered. Like a man who's seen too many graves dug before their time. Her voice hardened. Then tell me what to do. Stand, he said. That's not enough. That's all you've got. She turned away, staring down at the row of stones. Every one of these is a piece of me. Now you say they hold pieces I never asked for. That's the truth, he said. Her fingers brushed her brother's name again. And you flinched when you saw this. His silence was answer enough. She turned back to him, eyes sharp. What do you know that you're not saying? He swallowed hard. Just that his name carried weight with men you don't want to know. And that weight doesn't vanish just because he's in the dirt. Her voice was a whisper. So the sheriff comes not for money, not for land, but for the dead. The cowboy's eyes stayed fixed on the stone. For whatever the dead left behind. The widow's breath shook. She stepped back from the grave, her shawl clutched tight around her shoulders. The ground beneath her felt less like home and more like a trap. She whispered, This land isn't mine at all. It's yours, the cowboy said. That's why he wants it. Her heart pounded. She turned her face toward the house in the distance, its roof just visible over the fence. If secrets are stitched into this ground, then they'll tear through me, too. The cowboy's voice came quiet, almost gentle. Then we'll have to unearth them before he does. Her eyes cut back to him. We? He held her stare. You've got no one else. Her lips parted, but no words came. She turned away, walking slowly back toward the gate, each step heavier than the last. The cowboy followed, his boots crunching against the dirt. When they reached the fence, she stopped again. Her eyes fell once more on the row of stones. She whispered, "If this land is cursed, then so am I." The cowboy answered, steady and low, "Not cursed, chosen." She shook her head, grief flooding her chest. "I don't want it." "Want doesn't matter," he said. "The ground already claimed you." Her breath caught, sharp and painful. She gripped the fence, refusing to let him see her crumble. Behind her, the graves sat silent, but their weight pressed on every word spoken. Secrets lay stitched into the dirt, waiting, and she knew, with a cold certainty, that the sheriff would not rest until he dug them out. The widow woke to smoke in her throat. She sat up fast, heart pounding, the smell of ash thick in the air. A glow bled through the window, orange against the dark. She stumbled to her feet, clutching her belly, and ran to the door. The cowboy was already in the yard, shouting. Barns lit. Flames roared from the wooden frame, snapping through dry hay. Sparks leapt into the night sky like angry stars. She grabbed a bucket by the pump and filled it with shaking hands. "Water won't save it," he yelled. "I have to try," she cried back. She ran toward the fire, bucket sloshing. He grabbed another, joining her. They hurled water at the blaze, steam rising sharp. The flames only hissed and climbed higher. Her voice cracked. "The animals!" He pushed past her, shoving the barn door open. Heat rolled out like a wave. He dragged two terrified horses from their stalls, smacking their haunches until they bolted into the yard. She ran inside, coughing through the smoke, pulling at a goat pen latch. The cowboy grabbed her arm, yanking her back. "You'll choke. Let me go. Not with that child inside you." She twisted free, stumbling into the haze. He cursed and followed, dragging the goats out by the rope. Together, they shoved them toward the fence, flames snapping at their backs. The roof groaned above. A beam cracked and fell, sending sparks across the dirt. She screamed, dropping the bucket. He grabbed her shoulders. "Out!" She fought him, tears burning her eyes. "That barn held everything. Better it than you," he snapped. They staggered into the yard, sweat and ash streaking their faces. The barn collapsed behind them with a thunderous crash. Fire swallowed the last of it. She stood frozen, trembling, staring at the ruin. "We're finished. Feed tools, seed, gone." The cowboy's chest heaved. Not finished, still breathing. She turned on him, fury in her eyes. "You don't understand. That barn was the heart of this place." "I understand enough," he said. "You don't. You're not the one who built it with your own hands. You're not the one who watched your husband hammer every nail." He looked at her, voice steady. "No, but I'm the one who knows this fire wasn't a chance." Her breath caught. "What do you mean?" He pointed toward the tree line. Shadows moved at the edge of the glow. Men stood there, just far enough not to be seen clearly, watching. Her voice dropped to a whisper. "Sheriff's men." He nodded once. "They wanted you to see. I wanted you to hear it burn." Her body shook. "Why?" "Because this is only a warning." Her heart slammed. "A warning for what?" "For what comes if you don't bend." She stared at the shadows, rage rising with her fear. "They think they can scare me out of my own land." "They don't think," he said. "They know." Her eyes burned. "And you? What good are you if you can't stop them?" His jaw tightened. "You'd be ash yourself if I hadn't pulled you out." She shoved at his chest. "Don't act like my savior." "I'm not your savior," he snapped back. "I'm the wall between you and them. That's it." Her voice shook with fury. "Then build your wall higher, because they'll come through again." He stepped closer, his face dark with ash and firelight. "I will, but you need to face what this is." "What?" "A war," he said flatly. Her breath hitched. She turned her eyes back to the blaze. The barn was nothing but a skeleton of burning beams, collapsing inward. The crack and pop of timber filled the night. She whispered, broken. "That barn fed me, fed him. It was all I had left." The cowboy's voice softened. "You've got more left than wood and hay." She glared at him. "You speak easy because it's not yours." "It's mine now," he said. Her chest rose sharp. "No, it isn't." He didn't flinch. "It is. If I'm standing in front of it. If I'm standing in front of you." Her lip trembled. "You'll get yourself killed." "Better me than you." Tears stung her eyes. "I didn't ask for this." He nodded slowly. "Neither did I. But here we are." The flames roared louder, sparks showering the yard. The animals cried from the fence line, restless and scared. Smoke curled thick around them, heavy in their lungs. She pressed a hand to her belly. "What do I tell the child when he grows? That I let everything burn?" "You tell him you stood through it," the cowboy said. Her voice broke. "And if I can't, then I will." She turned to him, eyes wet and fierce. "You're a fool." He gave a faint, tired smile. "Maybe, but a fool who stayed." The barn groaned one last time and collapsed in on itself. Embers lit the ground, glowing red. The shadows at the tree line shifted, then melted back into the dark. The widow watched them vanish. Her body shook with rage, fear, and something she could not name. "They'll come again," she whispered. He nodded. "Yes, and next time, they won't just burn wood." Her stomach clenched. "Then what?" His eyes held hers. "Then they'll come for you." She staggered back a step, breath sharp in her chest. He reached out, steadying her arm. His voice was low, almost gentle. This was only the beginning. She looked past him at the ruin, smoke rising into the night sky. The land felt different now, haunted not by memory but by threat. The walls around her life were closing in, pressed tight by fire and shadow. Violence had touched her land, and it would not stop at the barn. The barn was still smoldering when dawn came. Ash drifted in the air like gray snow, settling across the yard, clinging to her clothes. The widow stood at the fence with her shawl pulled tight, staring at the ruin. Smoke curled from blackened beams that stuck out of the ground like broken ribs. The cowboy moved through the wreckage, boots crunching over charred wood. He kicked aside planks, searching for something he couldn't yet name. His hand brushed against metal under the ash. He crouched and pulled out a rusted tin box. The hinges scorched but still shut. He turned toward her. "Look at this." Her voice was raw. "I don't care what's left." "You should." He carried it over, ash trailing from his hands. She glanced down, then back up at him. "What is it?" Something he meant to keep hidden. Her breath caught. "No." "Yes," the cowboy said. "I'll open it." She shook her head, stepping back. "Don't." He pried the lid with a shard of wood. The hinge snapped, and a stack of letters spilled into the dirt. Edges curled, ink faded, but still sharp enough to read. The widow's face was drained of color. "Put them back." He picked one up, brushing soot from the page. His eyes scanned the lines, his jaw hardening. "These aren't love letters." Her voice trembled. "They're mine." He shook his head. "Not yours. These are bargains, promises, names of men he swore to." Then turned his back on. She stepped forward, snatching a letter from his hand. "You don't know what you're reading." "I know enough," he said. Her eyes darted across the handwriting, her husband's words staring back at her. The script was firm, familiar. The ink carried weight she couldn't deny. She whispered, "This isn't possible." "It's true," the cowboy said. "He rode with men darker than the sheriff. Men who don't forgive betrayal." Her eyes lifted, burning. "You're twisting it." He held another page out to her. "Read it." She snatched it, hands shaking. The words bled into her mind. "Supplies delivered. Payment withheld. Tell him I'll have no part in blood for land." Her knees weakened. "No." "Yes," the cowboy said. She shoved the letter back at him. "He wasn't that kind of man." "Then what kind was he?" "A husband," she snapped. "A father. Men can be both and still carry shadows," he said. Her face crumpled. "You don't know him." "I knew him better than you think." Her voice rose sharp. "You tell lies." "Not lies," he said. "Truth you don't want." She pressed the letters against her chest. "Stop." He stepped closer. "These words will outlive denial." Her eyes blazed. "And what do they say of you?" "You read another man's secrets like they belong to you." "They belong to the land," he answered. "The blood spilled because of them." Her breath came ragged. "He was mine, mine to mourn, mine to forgive, not yours." The cowboy's voice was low, steady. "And yet it's me standing here, holding the pieces he left to rot in ash. Her hands trembled. She dropped the letters back into the tin, slamming the lid shut. "I won't let you poison his name." "You don't need me to," he said. "He already did that himself." Tears stung her eyes. "Why are you doing this?" "Because the sheriff isn't your only enemy," he said. "There are men beyond him. Men who won't stop until they've dug out every word your husband wrote." Her voice broke. "And you expect me to believe you?" "I expect you to see it for yourself," he said, nodding toward the tin. "You already have." Her chest heaved, denial warring with memory. She remembered nights when her husband wouldn't meet her eyes, days when he rode out without saying where. She had buried those questions with him, sealed them in the ground. Now the ground had spit them back. She whispered, "If this is true, then everything I loved was built on lies." The cowboy's voice softened. "Not everything. You've still got the child." Her hands wrapped around her belly. "And what do I tell him? That his father was a coward?" "You tell him his father was a man," the cowboy said. "Men fail, men betray, but you can raise him differently." Her tears slipped free. "You want me to hate him?" "No," he said. "I want you to survive him." She sank onto a charred beam, the tin box heavy in her lap. Smoke rose faint around them. The letters whispered in her mind, words she wished she had never seen. Her voice was a whisper. "If men darker than the sheriff come, what chance do I have?" "You've got me," he said. Her head snapped up. "And what are you to me?" "A stranger with a claim I never asked for." He held her gaze. "I'm the one who tells you the truth, even when it burns." She turned away, clutching the box tighter. "Truth feels like betrayal." "Sometimes it is," he said. She stood, a shawl slipping from her shoulders. "Leave me." "No," he answered. Her voice hardened. "Then at least stop speaking of him like you own his ghost." "I don't own it," he said. "I carry it, just like you do." Her body shook with rage and grief. "You don't carry what I carry." His eyes dropped to her stomach, then back to her face. "Don't I?" Silence fell. The barn crackled behind them, smoke twisting into the gray sky. She turned toward the house, clutching the box to her chest. Her voice was brittle. "If you stay silent. No more talk of him." The cowboy's voice followed her. "The letters won't stay silent." She stopped at the porch, shoulders stiff. "Then I'll burn them." He shook his head. Fire already tried. Didn't work. Her breath trembled. She carried the box inside, shutting the door hard behind her. In the yard, the cowboy stood alone, staring at the smoke rising from the ruin. He knew the sheriff would smell it. He knew others might too. The ashes carried more than wood. They carried words, promises, and betrayals that could not be buried again. Inside the house, the widow set the tin box on the table and lowered it into the chair. Her fingers brushed over the lid. She hated it. She hated the man who wrote them. She hated the stranger who forced them back into her hands. But she could not deny them. The handwriting was her husband's. The words were his. And now her love was stained with suspicion. The widow stood with her shawl pulled tight against the night air. The moon was high, casting the yard in pale light. Beyond the house, past the scorched ruin of the barn, the old stone well sat in shadow. The cowboy walked toward it slowly, his boots crunching the dirt, his gaze fixed on the dark circle at its center. She followed, heart heavy, the tin box still on the kitchen table behind her. "Why are you looking there?" He didn't turn. "Because that's where it ends." Her voice sharpened. "It's a well, nothing more." He stopped at the edge, peering down. "It's more. He promised something to men who don't forget. When they came to collect it, they found nothing. So they'll keep looking." Her steps faltered. "You're wrong." "I'm not," he said. "I can feel it. You speak like a grave digger." "Maybe I am," he said softly. Her anger flared. "Stop putting curses on my land." He turned, eyes steady. "I'm not cursing it. I'm telling you what's already here." She stepped closer, gripping the stone rim. The air rising from the shaft was cold, sharper than the night. "There's nothing here but water." He shook his head. "Not anymore." Her jaw tightened. "You think you know better than me? I drew water from this well for years. I washed my child's clothes in it before he was born dead. I gave my husband a drink from it. Don't tell me what's in my well." The cowboy's face softened, but his voice stayed firm. He used it for more than water. Her throat caught. "No. Yes." She slammed her palm against the stone. "You speak like a snake." "I speak like a man who listens," he said. "He told them he'd leave what he owed in the well. When they came, it was empty." The sheriff's men laughed, said he cheated them. Her breath quickened. "That's not true." "It is," he said. Her voice shook. "You're tearing him down because you can't stand the weight of his name." The cowboy stepped closer, his shadow falling over hers. "I'm tearing nothing. He did that himself. I'm just showing you where it fell." She glared at him, tears sharp in her eyes. "I loved him." "I know. And you didn't." His jaw clenched. "Not the way you did." "Then stop pretending you have the right to judge him." "I'm not judging," he said. "I'm warning." Her voice cracked. "You think I'll believe a stranger over my own heart?" "I think you already do," he said quietly. She froze, rage and grief tangled. "You're poison." "Truth often is." She turned from him, gripping the rim of the well, staring into the dark circle below. "If there was something here, I'd know." He stepped beside her, leaning over. "Listen closely. Sometimes the ground talks back." Her skin prickled. "Stop!" He held up a hand. "Wait." They stood in silence. The night seemed to press tighter. The crickets hushed, the wind stilled, the well's mouth breathed cold air. Then, faint and low, a sound rose up from the depths. It wasn't a splash of water. It wasn't the echo of stone. It was something else, something neither of them could name. The widow gasped, pulling back. What was that? The cowboy's face was pale. Not water. Her voice shook. "You did this. You brought it out." "I didn't bring it," he whispered. "It was waiting." Her chest heaved, panic rising. "It's a trick. Some echo. That's all." "No echo sounds like that," he said. Her hands trembled against the stone. "Then what is it?" He shook his head slowly. "Det. Still breathing." Her eyes filled with tears. "No. He's gone. He's on the ground. He still can't touch me." The cowboy's voice was low. "Men like him never stay buried." She backed away, clutching her shawl. "I won't listen to you anymore." "You heard it," he said. Her voice broke. "I heard nothing but madness." He stepped closer, holding her gaze. "Say that again, and maybe you'll believe it. But you and I both know it's a lie." She turned away, walking fast toward the house, her feet stumbling in the dirt. The cowboy stayed by the well, staring into its dark throat. The sound still lingered in his ears, faint, hungry, alive. The widow reached the porch and stopped, one hand braced against the railing, her breath ragged. She could still feel the cold air rising from the well against her skin. She pressed her palm to her belly, whispering to the child within. Her voice was barely audible. "You won't inherit this." Behind her, the cowboy's voice carried across the yard. "You can't run from it." She spun, her face streaked with tears. "Watch me." He didn't move. "It'll follow. Det always does." Her chest ached with fury. "You're nothing but a curse walking upright." His tone hardened. "Better me than what's down there." The silence stretched. Smoke from the ruined barn still curled into the sky. The well sat between them, a wound in the earth. The widow turned and went inside, slamming the door. The cowboy stayed by the well, staring down into the dark, until the sound came again, faint, drawn out, rising from below like a voice too far to reach. He whispered to himself, "It's not done." And he knew neither was she. The widow was hanging laundry when the sound of hooves returned. She froze, clothespin tight in her hand. The cowboy stepped out from the barn ruin, already watching the road. The sheriff rode slowly into the yard, his horse kicking up dust. He wore his smile like a blade, eyes fixed on them both. "Well now," he drawled, "didn't expect you to last the week." The cowboy stood tall, hands loose at his sides. "Takes more than fire to end a place." The sheriff's eyes slid to the widow. "You sleep easily in ashes, widow?" Her throat tightened. "I sleep." "Not well," the sheriff said. "I can see it in your face." The cowboy stepped closer. "You didn't ride here to ask about her health." The sheriff smirked. "You're sharp for a boy without a name." "I've got one," the cowboy said. The sheriff tilted his head. "It doesn't matter. Not written in any book I read." The widow's voice shook. "Please, don't start this here." The sheriff ignored her. "You think you can stand where he fell?" The cowboy's jaw clenched. "I can." The sheriff leaned down in the saddle. Your father thought the same. Buried now, ain't he? The widow gasped. The cowboy's eyes narrowed. Say that again. The sheriff grinned. Buried. The cowboy moved fast, hand gripping the sheriff's boot, yanking hard. The lawman toppled from the saddle, hitting the dirt. His pistol slid loose, landing in the dust. The widow screamed. Stop it! The sheriff rolled, laughter spilling from his mouth, even as he spat blood. You've got his fire. Boy. The cowboy stood over him. And more. The widow rushed forward, pulling at the cowboy's arm. Don't. Please. The sheriff wiped his mouth, sat up slowly, his badge catching the sun. You want to play man of the house? Careful. The widow might start believing you. The cowboy's fist came down, striking hard. The sheriff's head snapped sideways, blood spraying across his shirt and the silver badge pinned to his chest. The widow cried out, shoving herself between them. Enough! Please, enough! The sheriff chuckled, coughing red. Looks like Mama raised herself a fighter. Her body went rigid at the word. She turned on him, voice sharp. Don't you dare! He grinned through blood. Why not? He calls you that, doesn't he? Say it loud enough for the whole county to hear. The cowboy's voice was low, shaking with fury. You'll regret speaking her name. The widow grabbed his arm, holding him back. Stop. Don't give him what he wants. The sheriff sat up straighter, wiping blood from his chin. She's right. I want you to be angry. Makes you sloppy. The cowboy glared. Then maybe sloppy's enough to put you down. The widow's eyes filled with tears. No. Please, not here. Not in front of me. The sheriff laughed, low and cruel. See? You're both mine already. Fighting like dogs over scraps that don't even belong to you. Her voice trembled. This land is mine. The sheriff tilted his head. Not for long. The cowboy stepped forward again. You'll bleed before you touch it. The sheriff rose to his feet, brushing dust from his coat, blood glistening on the badge. I already bled, boy, and I'm still standing. The widow's voice cracked. Please, both of you, stop tearing me apart. The sheriff's eyes softened, almost gentle. Widow, don't fool yourself. This isn't about you. Never was. She froze, chest tight. Then what is it about? He smiled faintly. The ground, the name, the power sewn into it. You're just the thread holding it together. Her breath faltered. The cowboy snarled. Then I'll cut the thread before I let you use her. The sheriff laughed, stepping back toward his horse. Good. Keep thinking that way. Makes the game sweeter. The widow's tears slipped free. I'm not your game. The sheriff met her eyes. You're the whole board, widow. He mounted his horse slowly, wincing at the ache in his jaw. The blood still shone bright against the badge pinned to his chest. He tipped his hat, smirking, twisting his lips. I'll be back when you've both had time to remember who owns what. The horse turned, hooves kicking up dirt as he rode off. The sound faded into the distance, leaving only silence and smoke in the yard. The widow stood trembling, her hands gripping her shawl. The cowboy stayed near, fists still clenched, chest heaving. She turned to him, voice raw. You've made it worse. I kept him from taking more. Her eyes burned. No. You gave him reason to return. He already had a reason. Her voice rose, breaking. But now he has blood. He looked down at his hand, knuckles raw, red streaks drying across his skin. He said nothing. She whispered, I'm not a shield for you. I'm not the ground for you to fight over. His eyes lifted, steady on hers. You are the ground. That's why he wants you. That's why I stay. Her chest ached, the truth cutting deep. She turned away, staring at the dust where the sheriff's horse had vanished. The land around her felt less like home, more like a battlefield. Blood had already marked it, and she knew it would not be the last. The house was dark, but for the single lamp on the table. Its glow stretched long shadows across the walls. The widow sat in her chair, shawl wrapped tight, hands folded over her belly. The cowboy leaned against the door frame, hat on the table, face lit sharp by the flame. Silence sat between them, heavy and unbroken until he spoke. I need to tell you something. Her eyes narrowed. No more riddles. It's no riddle. Then say it plain. He drew a breath, steady but rough. I'm not your son. Her heart jolted. I know that. Not the way you think. Her voice sharpened. Then what are you? His gaze didn't waver. Hi. She froze. What? Your husband's. Blood of him, bone of him, born where he never looked back. Her breath caught, sharp in her chest. That's a lie. It isn't. She shook her head, clutching her shawl tighter. He was mine, only mine. He wasn't, the cowboy said. He left pieces scattered. I was one of them. Her voice cracked. No, he would have told me. He didn't tell you because he wanted it buried, just like everything else. Tears burned her eyes. You're making this up to chain yourself to me. He stepped closer, voice low. I came for nothing but a place. I came because I wanted to belong to the name I never had. Her lips trembled. You came for revenge. He shook his head. I came for you. She looked away, tears slipping free. I don't want this truth. You already carry it, he said, her hands pressed harder against her belly. Then why call me Mama? His eyes softened, pain flickering through them. Because I never had one. Not from him. Not from the woman who bore me. I wanted it from you. Just once. Her throat closed. Words stuck. He took another step closer. You think I'm here to hurt you? I'm not. I wanted a place at your table. A name to call you by. A place to lay my shame. Her body shook. You've broken me with this. I broke myself long ago, he said. The silence returned, broken only by the faint hiss of the lamp. The widow's tears blurred the world. Her lips moved, but no sound came at first. She forced herself to speak, voice trembling. Son. The word landed like a stone in water, rippling through the room. The cowboy's chest rose, breath shuddering. His eyes burned, wet with something he hadn't let fall. He bowed his head, just once. The widow turned her face away, covering her mouth with her hand. The word hung heavy, no longer a lie, but a wound stitched into truth. The lamp flickered. The house held its breath. For the first time, the false name was real. The sun was sinking low, red along the horizon. The widow stood on the porch, shawl wrapped close, her hand resting against the doorframe. The cowboy saddled a horse in the yard, his shoulders tense, his eyes sharp. Hooves thundered in the distance. Dust lifted from the road. The sheriff wasn't alone this time. Men rode with him, rifles slung across their backs, eyes hard. The widow's breath caught. How many? The cowboy didn't look up. Enough. Her voice trembled. We can't fight them. He tightened the saddle strap. We can stand. She gripped the railing. Stand against bullets. His jaw set. Better than bowing. The horses slowed, circling the yard. The sheriff rode to the front, smiling wide. Evening, widow. Thought I'd bring friends. The cowboy stepped forward. You brought cowards. The sheriff laughed. Sharp tongue again. Careful with that. The widow called out, voice shaking. Why come here? Haven't you taken enough? The sheriff tipped his hat. Not yet. The cowboy's hand hovered near his pistol. You'll leave with nothing. The sheriff leaned in the saddle. And who'll stop me? You? Yes. The men shifted on their horses, hands brushing weapons. Tension hung thick. The widow cried out, Please, don't do this. The sheriff smirked. Hear that, boys? The widow wants peace. The cowboy's voice cut sharp. She wants freedom. You won't give it. The sheriff spat in the dirt. This land's already mine. The widow's voice broke. It's my child's. Laughter rippled through the men. The sheriff's eyes narrowed. That child belongs to no one yet. Maybe I'll claim him. The widow gasped, fury flashing through her tears. You won't touch him. The cowboy drew his pistol quick and steady. Say it again. The sheriff's smile faded. You've got the nerve, boy. More than you, the cowboy said. Guns lifted all around. The air was tight, ready to snap. The widow stepped forward, voice desperate. Stop this before blood spills. The sheriff sneered. Blood's already owed. The first shot rang out. No one saw whose hand pulled the trigger. Horses reared. Men shouted. Smoke filled the air. The cowboy pushed the widow back against the porch, his body shielding hers. Bullets tore into the yard, splintering wood. He fired back, quick and sharp, dropping one man from his saddle. The widow screamed, You'll die. Not before them, he shouted. Another shot cracked. He staggered, clutching his side, blood blooming dark across his shirt. Her hands caught his arm. No, his voice was rough, steady. Stay down. She pulled at him, tears streaming. You're hurt. Doesn't matter. The sheriff dismounted, pistol drawn, moving slowly across the yard. His men closed in, circling like wolves. The widow stood, voice shaking but strong. "Leave us." The sheriff smirked. "Still think words save you?" The cowboy coughed blood, raised his gun again. "Her words will." The sheriff chuckled. "She's nothing without me." The widow's eyes burned. She stepped in front of the cowboy, hands clenched at her sides. Her voice rang loud, breaking through the chaos. "This land is mine. You'll ride off it now." The sheriff froze, his smile faltering. The men glanced at each other, uneasy. The widow's voice rose louder, steadier. "I buried my husband here. I bled on this ground. I'll bleed again before I give it to you. Ride away." The sheriff's face hardened. "You don't command me." She stepped closer, fire in her voice. "I do. You'll leave or you'll fall." The cowboy struggled to stand, pistol aimed. "She means it." For the first time, the sheriff hesitated. Blood gleamed on his badge, a reminder of the last fight. His men shifted, nervous. The widow's voice cut like iron. "Go." Silence stretched. Then the sheriff spat in the dirt, eyes narrowed. He holstered his gun, swung onto his horse. "This isn't finished." The cowboy called out, weak but steady. "It is for today." The sheriff turned his horse, motioned to his men. Reluctant, they followed, dust rising as they rode off down the road. The yard was silent again, save for the crackle of the breeze through broken boards. The widow turned, catching the cowboy as he swayed. "Sit, please, sit." He sank onto the porch step, blood seeping through his shirt. She pressed her shawl against the wound, hands trembling. His breath came ragged. "Told you I wouldn't fall." Her tears fell hot. "You're bleeding out." He gave a faint smile. "Still standing enough?" She shook her head. "You're a fool." "Maybe," he whispered. "But I'm your fool." Her lips trembled. She looked toward the road where the sheriff had vanished, dust settling in the fading light. For the first time, her silence was gone. She had spoken. And he had listened. The land still held its weight, but her voice now carried over it. She pressed harder against his wound, eyes burning. "You won't leave me too." His gaze softened, pain clouding his face. "Not yet." The sun dipped below the horizon. Shadows spread across the yard. The fight was not over, but the ground had shifted. The widow's voice had risen, and the sheriff had ridden away. Morning crept in pale and thin, the light crawling slowly across the yard. The widow rose from the chair where she had dozed through the night, her shawl draped crooked across her shoulders. The house was still, quieter than it had been in years. She pushed herself up, her body heavy, her breath uneven. The porch boards creaked as she stepped outside. The broom leaned against the railing, the same broom she had dropped weeks before when the cowboy first called her Mama. She picked it up, hands closing around the handle, and began to sweep. The strokes were slow, deliberate, each one pulling up more dust than she cared to see. Her eyes moved to the yard. The barn ruin lay black and broken. The graves behind the house seemed closer now, their silence heavier, and the chair at the table inside, the one he had sat in, was empty. The cowboy was gone. She didn't know if he had bled out in the night, if he had ridden away, or if the land had swallowed him like it had her husband. His boots no longer marked the dirt. His voice no longer pressed against her silence. She swept and swept as if the motion might erase him from memory. But memory held. She heard him still, the words sharp in her ear. "Better me than you. Truth burns. I am his. I'm yours." "Mama." Her throat tightened. She swept harder. The sound of hooves broke the quiet. Her heart seized, broom pausing mid-stroke. She turned her head slowly toward the road. The sheriff rode alone this time, his hat low, his coat stained from the blood that had marked his badge. His horse moved steadily, unhurried. He did not glance at her. He did not stop. He rode past the house like it was nothing more than dirt and timber. The widow's hand gripped the broom tighter. She watched until he was gone, dust settling in his wake. She whispered to herself, "Not mine, not his, mine, now." She turned back to the porch, swept another line of dust. Her strokes grew steadier. Inside, the table sat with 2 bowls still stacked in the corner, chipped and cold. The chair he had pulled back each night stood waiting, empty. She left it that way, untouched, as though he might return and fill it again. She moved through the house slowly, her hand brushing along the walls. They seemed heavier with silence, but the silence no longer cut her as it once did. It pressed, yes, but it did not break her. She paused at the window, staring out at the well. The air above it looked still, but she could feel the cold in her chest. She thought of the sound rising from its depths, the voice that did not belong to water. She shivered, but did not turn away. Her voice was low, steady. "You'll not take me." The graves beyond seemed to listen. The ground held secret still, but she would no longer be bent by them. She stepped back to the porch, sweeping again. Dust lifted, carried on the morning wind. The air smelled of ash and earth, not fire. Her belly pressed against the broom handle. The child shifted inside her. She paused, hand resting on her stomach, tears slipping quiet down her face. She whispered, "You'll never call him father, but you'll know this land. You'll know it was mine." The wind rustled through the yard. The animals grazed at the fence line, uneasy but alive. The widow set the broom aside and sank into the porch chair. She closed her eyes, letting the weight of the night drain from her bones. She thought of the cowboy, his steady eyes, his anger, his broken truth. She thought of the way he had shielded her, the way his blood had spilled across her land. She thought of the word she had given him, the one he had begged for. "Son." Her chest ached. "You're gone," she whispered, "but you're still here." The empty chair inside the house waited. She let it wait. She rose and walked to the yard, her feet carrying her toward the graves. The ground crunched under her boots. She stopped at her husband's marker, staring at the name carved shallow. "You left me with debts," she said. Her voice was calm now, not trembling. "You left me with silence and with shame, but you left me more than that." She touched her belly again. "You left me, and I'll raise him without your shadow." Her eyes shifted to her brother's stone, then to the empty ground near the fence. She thought of the cowboy, whether he lay under some tree, blood drying in the dirt, or whether he had ridden off carrying his wound to another place. She whispered, "If you're gone, then may the earth take you gently. If you're not, then may you find your own home." She turned and walked back to the house. The day stretched long. She cleaned the kitchen, washed the bowls, and swept the dust from the corners. She moved through the house like she was laying claim to it again. Each room had carried silence, but now the silence carried her. When evening fell, she lit the lamp. The flame flickered, shadows stretching across the walls. She set a single bowl on the table, filled it with stew. She sat in her chair, spoon in hand, eyes falling on the empty chair across from her. For a long moment she stared, her lips parted. "Son." The word hung in the air, not for him, but for herself. A claim, a vow. She ate slow, steady, the silence less sharp than before. Outside, the land settled into darkness. The sheriff did not return. The men did not linger at the trees. The well sat quiet, the graves still. When she finished, she left the bowl on the table. She left the chair empty. She climbed the stairs and lay in her bed, hand resting over her belly. She whispered into the dark, "You'll carry my name, not his, mine." Sleep took her, slow and heavy. Morning came again, and she rose. She swept the porch once more, each stroke firm, steady, no longer desperate. The sheriff rode past at midday. He did not stop. He did not look. She watched him go, her breath even. Her voice carried across the yard, soft but strong. "Not yours. Never yours." The land was haunted still, but it was hers. The chair inside stayed empty, but the house no longer felt hollow. The widow had been broken by grief, bound by lies, hunted by men. Now she stood with a broom in hand, child in her belly, and silence turned to strength. The cowboy was gone. The sheriff was beaten back. The house was scarred, but it endured. The empty chair waited, and she let it wait. She swept the porch again, slower this time, the morning light warm on her face.